Dan Schneider, Dirty Dan, Dan the Creep, Foot Fetish Dan. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about pretty much whatever I want to talk about. And today I feel like blasting Dan Schneider because I think he's a predator. And I believe that based on Dan Schneider's disturbing and bizarre and creepy behavior. So we're going to talk about today Dan Schneider, as I said, but recently there was a documentary film that came out about Dan Schneider and the shows he worked on, and the things that happened to some of these child actors. The documentary is called Quiet on Set, and it's a 4 or 5 episode like docuseries. And Dan Schneider has recently come out. He's done an interview sort of addressing the numerous allegations, the things that came out in that docuseries, but he's also filed a, quote, defamation lawsuit against the producers of that documentary. And I thought that that was pretty brazen. And I'll just say here that the video is probably going to be demonetized for a variety of reasons because of the things that we're going to be talking about, but also because I'm going to be playing some clips that have music and things like that. So it's probably going to be a demonetized video. So if you want to support your girl, you can. There's donation options in the video description, and you can always use a super chat or a super thanks to support the work we do here at the channel. So I want to remind you guys of like the kind of individual that we're dealing with. I'm just going to show you a couple clips of Dan's behavior, and then we're going to talk about the allegations about not just him, but his associates, people he himself surrounded himself with.
I write hat of spoons, and we get
Hat of spoons.
a hat of spoons.
So he just decides whatever kind of nonsense he wants to write about, he was getting back then. He was kind of being catered to because Dan Schneider brought in a lot of money for Nickelodeon, and you can see he obviously was allowed to pretty much do whatever he wanted, and just observe the man's behavior.
This is why I'm in Hollywood.
Yeah, eat your cereal, kids.
Did she say nice things about me? Because I will tase her if necessary.
Okay, my god, that's a scary image. Oh my gosh. That was like the perfect freeze frame. So you could argue that maybe in that first clip that was innocent. Maybe you could argue he did the kiss for comedic effect, although it was a little bit weird, right? But like, this is not a one-time thing. Just observe his creepy behavior.
Uh-oh.
I have the taser. We haven't had you.
And look at the way he's touching the back of her neck. Like, it's a really weird... So this is her employer, and this is like... it's just imagine, okay, you're in the workplace in an office, and your boss comes up, and your male boss puts his hand around the back of your neck like that in front of other people. It's really creepy. It's very possessive and strange.
It's been a long time, but
I said lots of nice things.
No, I said nice things about you too.
Oh.
That's going to get on TV.
What?
That's going to get on TV.
Okay, so this part, I'm sorry, I just have to laugh because I don't know what I'm supposed to feel by looking at this. I mean, it is disturbing in many ways. It's uncomfortable but for a variety of reasons.
These videos made me so nervous.
Why?
Say your name again. So why is Ariana nervous when Dan Schneider comes around on the set?
Just a little improv.
Because you never know what you're doing.
Little man, I was like, what?
You don't.
We never know what you're doing.
There we go.
I would.
Better not be on the tube when I get home.
This will. I would not put this on the tube.
It's on the tube. I'm gonna lose my mind.
You know what's gonna happen if I put this on YouTube. What? You know.
A little bit weird. It gets weirder. Keep watching. Look
You orange?
at him being creepy.
Are you official orange from now on?
Remember that episode of
Why does he feel the need to touch the children?
iCarly when this British guy came on the show and called everyone a bunch of hobknockers?
I swear you're all just a bunch of hop knockers.
Hop knockers.
I'm going.
So I looked up what it meant on Urban Dictionary, and what is this show?
Why are you putting this in children's shows? And then the feet stuff, which was a feature of anything Dan Schneider related. He's literally known as like the foot guy, the guy with the foot fetish. That's just how he's known. And it's just so, I don't know, it's very creepy.
Sometimes I wonder.
Oh, just
if you
watch
can
this
get-
one. Just watch. If you're thinking this isn't that bad, remember that these are shows geared towards children. And now watch what she does here. This was clearly written to simulate something, and we all know what it is.
Juice from
It's
a
not
potato.
appropriate for children at all. Really?
What do you have there? What does it do?
Two victims here. I mean, Amanda Bynes, just look at her now. And Drake, we heard what happened to him, which was horrific. This is all while this is happening. You know, this kid's being abused. She's probably being abused. So just know that as you're watching this very creepy home movie style-esque recording made clearly by Schneider himself.
She's a star, so she gets a big, she gets a big spitball shooter thing. Yes, yeah. She gets the extra handy dandy equipment.
So sad.
I want. Hey. No, hey, wait. Take a close up of this. You get a close up of this one.
You go, boy.
It's so weird, like, watching this stuff now, knowing the things that we know now. I just find that there's something just so very disturbing about this to me. Just knowing how everything that has gone on in Amanda Bynes' life, what she's currently going through, and how she looks right now, it's just very sad. And it makes you wonder what happened to her. Here he is. Can't keep his hands off the children. It's really weird.
Throat is my instrument. I'm a throat player.
Doesn't count.
And it sounds kind of gross.
More foot stuff. It's unbelievable. It's so creepy. And it goes on and on. Now, he has done an
Hey, it's
interview.
Boogie. I played T-Bo on Nickelodeon's iCarly.
He does an interview with one of these former child stars or whatever that was on the iCarly show, and he comes on to talk about the allegations, and this can be summed up, in my opinion, by just saying Dan Doth protest too much.
I got a chance to watch the Quiet on Set program, and I reached out to Dan to see if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss.
Oh, is that what happened? You reached out to see if he'd be willing to discuss it. You should note comments are completely turned off on this interview. So unfortunately, we don't have the ability to read the comments that would just be shredding Dan Schneider.
I'm pleased to say that he said yes. Dan, how are you?
I'm okay.
Look at
I
it.
really appreciate you reaching out and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about what we saw over the last 2 nights.
I'm really glad you're here.
Look at this. This is how he chooses to address what the Quiet on Set docuseries and all of the allegations in it. Like, this is how he chooses to address it. And just look at him, by the way, like physically. Look at how he has aged, if you will, right? And not in a good way.
Because I believe this is important.
For sure.
We've got a lot of things to unpack.
And he's
But before
probably
I
on
dive into
Ozempic
my
or something.
list of topics that
I
I'd
don't
like to
know.
discuss, is there anything you'd like to start?
They're all on Ozempic. He throws it to Dan, though. He says, is there anything you'd like to start with?
Absolutely. Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult. Me facing my past behaviors,
Oh, I bet self-reflection is hard.
some of which are embarrassing and that I regret. And I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
Massages.
It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position. It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable. So I owe them an apology as well.
Wow. The entire thing is creepy to watch, but if you want to watch it, I recommend you do so, just to watch his behavior and to get an idea for his lack of accountability and responsibility yourself. So going now, I want to talk about some of this. I thought this was important. Now this impacts, says the revelations exposed by Quiet on Set docuseries could just be the tip of the iceberg. And now many are waiting to hear from Amanda Bynes. I think a lot of people wonder about Amanda Bynes. She obviously had a lot of talent as a child actor, and I don't want to, obviously, if you haven't seen Quiet on Set, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I don't want to give out any spoilers, but I recommend watching it. I thought it was very well done, although I do think that they did leave a lot of stuff out about Dan Schneider. I still thought for what it was that it was really good, but Amanda Bynes does not appear in it, and she does not really address any of this.
Look at you! I love your outfit.
Yeah, I like yours too.
The internet has erupted in the wake of the ID docuseries Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, and one notable absence was that of Nickelodeon's golden child, Amanda Bynes. Among other things, the doc focused on Schneider's first big hit, The Amanda Show, and the questionable relationship the adult producer had with its star, who was just 13 when she got her own spin-off following her success on All That.
Plot dismissed. Bring in the dancing lobsters.
The reason behind Bynes' absence on Quiet on Set hasn't been officially.
Yeah, she hasn't, I don't believe, and as far as I know, today is the May 9th. I don't believe she has said anything about why she chose not to appear on it, unlike her social media or anything like that. I don't think she said anything, but for whatever reason, she hasn't really talked about it.
Confirmed, but there are plenty who are eager to hear her.
But, and I'll just say this, you can go find it easily. There are other creators who have put this together, and so I recommend you go watch their videos. Just look up Amanda Bynes, Dan Schneider allegations. There's basically, I don't know that this is confirmed, but she apparently may have made some allegations about Dan Schneider online using an alt account, and there's maybe reasons to believe that that was really her account. So look it up. I'm not, you decide one way or the other what your thoughts are on that. Dan Schneider's obviously a very litigious individual, so I'm not saying anything happened. I'm just saying look into it.
Side of the story. So what happened to the early 2000s it girl, and where is she now? Bynes had an early knack for comedy and was scouted by a Nickelodeon producer at the Laugh Factory.
Maybe I should have skipped that 13th candy bar.
She was cast on All That soon after. Later, her own show became a huge success, as did she.
And not just her, I mean, with the success of Amanda Bynes, also Dan Schneider got success from that as well. So with her career, like his career got boosted from that as well. And in Quiet on Set, they talk about there was like another child star who was very similar to Amanda Bynes. She was like a comedy type character who basically, once she reached a certain age, it seemed like they weren't interested in her anymore and were looking to replace her with somebody with like a younger version of herself. At least that's how she tells it.
Amanda show ended, Bynes would go on.
That was Amanda Bynes.
To star in early aughts hits like She's the Man, Big Fat Liar, and What a Girl Wants. In 2003, Variety reported that Bynes had been looking to get emancipated from her parents. Schneider himself, who was considered a major player in the then 17-year-old actor's attempt, discussed the emancipation while responding to Quiet on Set.
She wanted that for herself, so she turned to her team, which included her lawyer, her agent, her manager, her publicist, me, because she included me as part of her team, thought of me that way.
Bynes later told Paper Magazine that She's the Man sent her into a depression as she...
Yeah, here's the thing. It is weird because, like I said, I don't want to give away spoilers for Quiet on Set, but there's something about that. You'll see, so it's hard because we talk about like things like grooming and grooming behaviors. Remember that these are children, they're child actors. There's another actor who was on the Amanda Bynes show that is featured in Quiet on Set, who was also had a person that was on the Nickelodeon shows tell them and suggest to them that they should try to emancipate themselves and also no longer be represented by their parent as a manager, and should allow, of course, that person to, or somebody else to be the manager. Basically, it's a predator that was trying to make it easier to prey upon somebody. So that should be noted, I think, when we talk about this, and how the idea even came into her mind that she should try to emancipate herself, and things like that.
She hated the way she looked in the film. She also said her role in Easy A, the last film she appeared in, gave her confidence issues as well. It was around this time that Bynes started struggling with drugs. She said that she started smoking weed at 16 and abused other substances like Adderall. Her body image issues continued during the filming of the movie Hall Pass, when she claims a drug-induced psychosis made it so that she couldn't look at her body. Bynes was later replaced by Alexander Daddario. In 2010, she announced her retirement from acting via Twitter.
It's really sad. I mean, she has obviously been through and experienced a lot, and I just have to wonder what she was exposed to, that caused such a dramatic change in her.
What followed was a few years of erratic tweets, arrests, and a conservatorship by her parents that ended in 2022. While under her conservatorship, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. In the 2018 Paper Magazine interview, Bynes celebrated being 4 years sober and credited her relationship with her parents as helping her get there. Bynes was attending and later graduated from Los Angeles' Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising and was eager to start her own fashion line. She was also clear about her desire to return to acting.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? All right, so I want to go now to just a couple things I pulled up here, just very briefly, because we are going to get into the defamation lawsuit that Dan Schneider has filed, but before we get into that, I just want to show you some information about Dan Schneider first, because I think it's important people have that background information of like, gee, why is it that this guy is viewed as a predator? Starting off, Dan Schneider was the Nickelodeon producer of shows like Zoe 101, iCarly, The Amanda Show, and Drake and Josh. The Nickelodeon classics, I'm sure if you grew up in that time frame, you remember the shows. You may not have watched them all, but you at least, you're aware of them, right? The most well-known theory is Schneider has a serious foot fetish. This would explain the themes of feet throughout all of his shows, and it's so prominent that it is like literally unavoidable. It's so bizarre. There's obviously something there. You might say, maybe he just finds feet funny, but his Twitter may prove differently. Who asks thousands of young kids to send feet pictures? Yes. Yeah. Yep, he seemingly has a foot obsession. Right on the bottom of your foot, take a picture and use this hashtag #SalmonCatSaturday. We'll retweet it and follow until our fingers get sore. He's encouraged a bunch of children to photograph their feet and then submit it to Twitter. I mean, that is just disturbing. One Reddit user posted this 6 years back, and while this was never proven true, I thought I'd add it, showing the piling of allegations against him. I grew up in LA and was an extra on the Amanda Show a few times. He paid me $100 once just to tickle my feet. Apparently, somebody made that allegation. To make a weird story short, in between takes, Dan asked me if I was ticklish. I said no. Then he bet me $100 he could make me ticklish. I was expecting him to reach over and tickle me under my arm or something like that. He led me to his office. I basically got paid to receive a foot massage and a lot of compliments. Gee. A little bizarre if a grown adult is paying a child to touch their feet, but this is just a Reddit allegation, so it should be treated as an allegation. Still very disturbing if true. An unknown female spoke up about a casting call for Nickelodeon back in 2007. The kids were asked to take off their shoes, go in a room alone with Dan Schneider, and talk about how they love being barefoot.
We were then told, take off our shoes.
I don't know. The audio is really low. I don't know if you can hear it. She says, we were then told, take off our shoes.
We're each going to go into a room.
We're each going to go into a room.
Show the producer, who's Dan Schneider.
And show the producer, who's Dan Schneider.
Tape to see who you would want on the show. And, of course, we always ask, like, what do we have to do? Like, what would you like us to do?
What do we have to do? Blah, blah, blah.
Doing once we're in there.
What are we supposed to do once we go in there?
And my agent told me.
And she was told.
He's like, it's going to be like he's like, you got to just take off your shoes.
It's going to be like, you got to just take off your shoes.
Just, like, run around in front of the camera.
And, like, run around in front of the camera.
Talk about how much you love being.
Talk about how much you love being barefoot. That's so weird. Last evidence on feet, an interview with Noah Monk, and somebody from formerly iCarly.
Oh, totally, yeah. Well, Schneider created iCarly.
Dan Schneider created iCarly.
So I know him really well.
So I know him really well.
Thing where I was sort of, I mean, if
that's the thing where I was sort of.
That shit went on.
I think he says if that shit went on.
If that shit went on, I'm fucking like, that's devastating.
That's devastating.
Because I don't see him in that light.
Because I don't see him in that light.
So watching.
You know, so watching
clips on YouTube and shit of that is like crazy, but
stuff on YouTube is crazy.
the foot fetish shit.
The foot fetish.
Like, okay, bro, come on.
It's like okay.
I never really noticed that when I was 15.
Come on, I never really noticed that when I was 15.
Like, of course, looking in retrospect.
Looking in retrospect, it's like weird. I think it's also important to note he didn't necessarily deny allegations against Schneider. Next allegation, Schneider's infamous acting boot camp with fellow friend and producer Brian Peck. Many stars were discovered at these camps like Amanda Bynes. And like I said, without wanting to give away any spoilers, you're going to hear about Brian Peck in the Quiet on the Set docuseries. Parents would drop their kids off, leaving them alone with men like Schneider and Peck and others at these camps. According to an anonymous source, the kids were told to hang out at the pool and wear revealing clothing for a better chance of getting noticed by big-time producers. Big time or big-sized? You know, I mean, if we're just looking at this picture here of Schneider and Amanda Bynes in a hot tub together, yeah. Shortly after, in 2004, Brian Peck was arrested on 11 counts of SA charges against a minor on The Amanda Show. This guy was running an unsupervised kids camp with Schneider. Something isn't right here, and I will not read this, but you can see it yourself. It is horrific. The dirtbag only served 16 months and continued to work with Disney and Nickelodeon shortly after. This is somebody who should have been, he was registered as an offender after this happened to one of their child actors. Why would you bring this man back knowing what he did? And not only did they do that, I mean, a lot of these people defended this man at his trial, knowing the allegations against him. It's sickening, okay? It can be speculated Schneider's alleged inappropriate behavior greatly contributed to Amanda Bynes' breakdown as she grew older. Before I address my last few theories, more evidence of Dan Schneider being touchy-feely with his actors. And it's not just that, but like, look at the look on his face there. Like he feels like he's getting away with something. And he looks so creepy in his eyes. I mean, this is disturbing also. What is he, like, I don't even know what to say. And this is also a theory, you know, I don't know where the theory originated. I don't tend to believe that this is true, that Dan Schneider is the father of Jamie Lynn Spears' child. But I do think that Dan Schneider created such an inappropriate environment that I think that Jamie Lynn probably was exposed to things she shouldn't have been exposed to at a very young age. In 2007, news broke Jamie Lynn was pregnant at 16, resulting in the cancellation of her show. She had an on-again, off-again relationship with a boyfriend at the time. But many believe he isn't the father. But it's like, what do they have to suggest that he's not? While the father's identity still is yet to be revealed, many believe it to be Dan Schneider. As crazy as this may seem, there is evidence from an interview with Star magazine, along with side-by-side comparisons to help. I still don't believe it. I don't know that this is true. The man many suspect is the father would face charges and prison time if he were to come forward and admit it. Star magazine states, yeah. Two separate insiders who believe the father is someone who works on the show. That is possible. Doesn't mean it's Dan Schneider. Who knows? Friends have said Jamie Lynn was no longer even seeing Casey, and family members told Star they believe the real father is an older executive from Zoe 101. I don't know that that's true. I feel like if that's true, we would know. It would have come out by now. So I just don't know what to make of that theory. Ariana Grande and Jeanette McCurdy, remember, these are only speculation and theory. It's not, she's not saying this is a fact. There are allegations Dan Schneider was inappropriate with Ariana Grande and Jeanette McCurdy and gave them their spin-off show, Sam and Cat, to keep them quiet. During the show, Jeanette posted a seemingly harmless Vine directed at Dan Schneider. It's a little bit weird. I mean, it's okay. I'm just gonna say it. It is creepy. It's bizarre, but then again, these are like child actors, and they like all think that they're artists and stuff. So they all think that they're being artistic and stuff when they do stuff like this.
Hey, Dan Schneider, I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Vine. Look what you've done to me. Hey, Dan Schneider, I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine?
It is a little bit... It's okay. It's strange. There's a clip from behind the scenes of Victorious. Schneider is behind the camera. Notice the girls' demeanors change completely. Ariana seems to play along, but Liz seems angered by this and storms off. In 2014, Schneider was awarded a Kids' Choice Award. Jeanette McCurdy and Miranda Cosgrove boycotted the awards despite winning awards themselves. They asked Ariana to join, which she declined. Jeanette then came forward stating, quote, "I was put in an uncomfortable, compromising, unfair situation. Many of you have guessed what it is, and I had to look out for me." She unfollowed Ariana on all social media, and her contract with Nickelodeon was never renewed. And this is just more of his creepy, touchy-feely behavior. While none of these are proven facts, Nickelodeon fired Dan Schneider, their most successful producer, in May 2018, saying they should simply part ways. Yes, that is true. Alexa Nicholas, aka Nicole from Zoe 101, posted on her Instagram saying not to watch Schneider's shows and that he is a very bad guy. In my opinion, he is not a good guy at all, she said. She says, don't watch his shows. He is not a good guy. And that's this young lady. And she said this on her social media. That one time I was taught by a network studio to be boy crazy at 12 years old. Ladies, don't be boy crazy. Instead, just be crazy and build your own empire. Kids networks need to stop sexualizing children. It's creepy. And she was on the show, so I find that strange. Okay, so moving on, there's a lot more. This isn't necessarily all about Dan, but it is people that he employed or was associated with. And I do think that that is important, and I do think that matters as circumstantial evidence, like who you're choosing to surround yourself with. They say birds of a feather, right? A Nickelodeon insider has come forward to me and has revealed information regarding a director-producer who was fired from Dan Schneider's show after allegedly being inappropriate to Ariana on set and ended up continuing to work for Nickelodeon. Well, just like Brian Peck continued to work for them after what he did. Clayton Bowen is a director and technical producer who worked with Dan Schneider from 2007 to 2014. He directed and was a producer for iCarly, Victorious, and Sam and Cat. He also filmed online short-form content for The Slap and iCarly, where we see a lot of this bizarre type content. Yeah. Near the end of Victorious and heading into Sam and Kat, Ariana allegedly had an inappropriate incident with Clayton, who ended up getting fired for it. According to The Insider, as punishment, Clayton ended up working on a, quote, non-union Nickelodeon show called Every Which Way. Non-union meaning less pay and less protection. Instead of cutting off Clayton, they gave him another show. Allegedly, Dan Schneider himself was the one who got him the gig with Every Which Way. This is a show that was filmed in Miami, Florida, as we have covered in a previous thread. Why that might be because of how Florida operates regarding the lack of child labor laws. And I think that's why they like to use that location. The Insider told me they were allegedly 3 to 4 different cast members groomed and or harassed by Clayton on and off the show. He apparently one time sent a picture, an inappropriate picture, to one of the cast members who was male. It was an unsolicited and unwanted picture from a director. Clayton would allegedly prey on girls and boys. A while back, we had Autumn Wendell, a cast member, who came forward about Schneider being protected by Nickelodeon in this thread, who also openly cut ties with the cast and people of Every Which Way. That is also, it's disturbing. This continues. Former Nickelodeon producer Dan Schneider and music director Dr. Luke, aka Lucas Gottwald, worked together and had connections when producing and writing music for Nickelodeon. This is Dr. Luke, quote unquote, and you all know Dan Schneider. Dr. Luke has been under allegations for SA, harassment, and other things from the pop star Keisha since 2014. Dan Schneider and people associated and who worked with Dr. Luke on several occasions in 2010. Victoria Justice, the star of Nickelodeon's Victorious, did the theme song Make It Shine, written by Dan Schneider, produced by Dr. Luke here. Another star who worked with him was Miranda Cosgrove. On her debut album, she did the song Sparks Fly, which he wrote and produced. The lead single, Kissing You. Miranda was 16 years old when she was given the song to record. Keisha wrote over 200 songs for her debut album Animal. Her 2009 demo song Disgusting, quote unquote, was sold to Cosgrove for Sparks Fly. Dr. Luke worked as a producer on both albums. Keisha sued Dr. Luke in 2014, stating she had little creative control over her music. Not only that, but apparently he was doing other inappropriate things as well. Keisha's 2012 album Warrior aimed for a 70s rock sound, but suffered with her lack of creative control and conflict with Dr. Luke. Dr. Luke's connection with Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon led him to have Keisha guest star in an episode of Victorious. In the episode, Keisha is shown portrayed as a sleazy party girl act with an alcohol bottle. She was stylized wearing decorative ammunition on a children's show, which is just bizarre. Jeanette McCurdy and Avon Jogia have spoken about alcoholism on the sets of iCarly and Victorious. Keisha was present for this as a guest star on the Ice Cream for Keisha Victorious episode. In Jeanette McCurdy's book, she confirmed the creator, assumed to be Dan Schneider, would always compare the iCarly kids to the Victorious kids. He forced her to drink despite her being a minor and it being illegal. And, made her get drunk with him, which is very disturbing. Aside from her guest appearance, Keisha's unreleased music from Animal was used as backtracks in multiple Victorious episodes without being credited. In 2016, Ariana Grande, who played Kat Valentine on Victorious, retracted her tribute to Dr. Luke amidst the Free Kesha movement and lawsuit. Ariana's tribute was tweeted during her time at Nickelodeon when Dr. Luke and Dan Schneider actively worked together. Very disturbing. Asked if she was concerned about speaking out, Ariana told Daily she was willing to take the brunt for fighting for what she believes in, and my fellow women are definitely something I will always be one of the first to speak up about. That's her and Keisha. Ariana publicly supported Keisha, stating she wasn't worried about speaking out. The two co-wrote for her album, Truly Yours, only released Pink Champagne as a YouTube Vivo release in 2014 before the lawsuit. Sony Music offered Keisha freedom from having to contractually work with her abuser, Dr. Luke, only if she took her claims back. Wow. Similarly, Nickelodeon offered Jeanette McCurdy $300,000 in hush money to stay quiet about her experiences with Dan Schneider and the studio, of course. Kel Mitchell's ex-wife speaks out about suspicious behavior on Nickelodeon's All That set that she witnessed, including cast members giving producers BJs, washing Dan Schneider's car in a bikini, and more. I'm sure everybody remembers Keenan and Kel from All That back in the day, so this is very disturbing if that's coming from like an eyewitness. Taisha Hampton, who was married to Kel from 1999 to 2005, has spoken out about some of the suspicious behavior that happened on the All That set on a YouTube channel called Night and Day Network. The reason Nickelodeon shows were filmed in Orlando, Florida is because there are no child labor laws in Florida. Adults can do whatever they want to kids. Let's actually hear what she says.
Crazy sick shit that went on at Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Have I heard about it?
You know, like with the pedophilia and all that shit.
Have I heard about it? Yeah, I know about it.
Have you seen anything? Like, have
Oh
any
my
of them
God,
been
have I-
involved in any of that? Because let's hear about some of that.
Look at her face.
Oh my
on her
Lord.
face.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, when you come to this channel, that's the shit you gotta talk about.
Let's
We wanna hear
talk,
real
let's
shit.
talk
Let's
about
go.
it. Let's talk about
go.
it. So the reason why the TV shows and Nickelodeon shows were filmed in Florida were because Florida had no child labor laws. I mean, how people didn't know this, I don't know. Like, who would send their kids to a state with no child labor laws and their child is working? Like, who does this? And these parents, like Kel's parents, were not with him. All these parents of the kids on the show, their parents were not with
crazy sick shit that.
So they're not, like, the parents weren't there. They're not paying attention to what's happening to these kids. This is disturbing. Adults on set would be showing children this type of inappropriate film, along with giving them drinks at parties. Many of the producers on set would talk about orgies. This was the norm on this dysfunctional set, apparently. Taisha and Kel would go to clubs that they were not legally allowed to go in because people on the Nickelodeon set would make them, would help them get fake IDs to get them into clubs.
But Kel told me that, like, because we would get into clubs and we were young, like 16, 17 years old, we'd be in clubs. And the people on the set in Florida made us fake IDs. And so...
Of course they did. One of the girls on All That she was 15 or 16 years old, would clean Dan Schneider's car in a bikini, while another would be giving BJs to the producers. She clarifies it was not Amanda Bynes, it was someone older than her. The producers were obsessed with cheese and feet, along with little girls, and had a fetish for these things. Well, the foot thing was obvious. I wasn't aware of the cheese thing, but here we are. There are no boundaries. When Taisha was pregnant, even then, the producers would ask if they could do inappropriate things to her. She was being harassed so much, she would stay in Kel's dressing room most of the time. Last year, the New York Times' Arthur Gradstein, a writer for Dan Schneider's show, spoke out saying Schneider had a willful disregard for boundaries with the people he worked with on set. Yeah. Here we go even more. Fred Savage, who has multiple allegations against him for misconduct dating back to 1993, happened to have a connection with Dan Schneider, Nickelodeon, and Disney. Of course, because why not? Just like Dan Schneider in the 80s being on Head of the Class. This was a show where Dan Schneider got his, I guess he got his break, or his first big break. Fred Savage was also a child star on The Wonder Years, both child stars from the same time frame. The show apparently got canceled because of allegations back in 1993 against Fred of him and his co-star Jason Hervey at age 16 harassing the costume designer Monique Long. ABC canceled the show, and the network paid off the costume designer to make the allegations go away. Fred was angry with the network for doing that, as he stated in 2018 with Yahoo Entertainment. After his years of being on The Wonder Years, he first got involved with kids television, being the host of the Nick Jr. channel. He then began directing for kids shows on both Nick and Disney, such as That's So Raven, Hannah Montana, Wizards of Waverly Place, Big Time Rush, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. He also happened to direct many of Dan Schneider's shows, such as Josh and Drake, Zoe 101, and What I Like About You. Alexa Nicholas, who worked on Zoe 101 with him, is not a fan of him as a director or a person. Never a fan, also heard inappropriate stories about him throughout the years. His eyes would go dead. They all see his absolute perfect best face, but he sometimes showed a different side to the below-the-line employees who don't have power. Survivor of Fred. In recent years, these allegations of inappropriate behavior coming from Fred began in 2018. A female crew member on the set of Fox's The Grinder in 2018 accused him of creating a hostile work environment for her. Allegedly, the woman said he struck her in the arm 3 times after she brushed dandruff off his suit for him. He also apparently had a reputation for losing his cool with other women on set. Fred denied these allegations. However, he was still fired from Disney in May of 2022. Following investigation into inappropriate conduct, Schneider also apparently happens to be with someone that loses his cool when they're on set with children, according to many writers. Yeah, and I just thought this was funny. Dan Schneider is a predator, and the lawsuit against the filmmakers who exposed him will only make this more apparent. You scripted, recorded, and produced the abuse, dude. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the disturbing things about it, is that, like, he was filming all of this stuff.
When I watched the show, I could see the hurt in some people's eyes, and it made me feel awful.
Oh, did it? Did that make you feel bad? All right, this is also very disturbing. Now, this is obviously pure allegation. It comes from C-Dan, who is somebody who I guess claims to be an entertainment lawyer, and they post these blind items. Many of these have turned out to be accurate through the years, though. And I believe this one is about Dan Schneider and Viacom. It's called 4 for Friday. It's about time. Date January 19th, 2018. And I think he is the person being talked about here. And it is just very disturbing. I will say that. You can read that for yourself on the CDAN website. I'll just read part of it. The clock is ticking loudly as a chain of events, and a metaphorical deal with the devil can bring down this entire media corporation and their now struggling studio within the coming year. This one has been a long time coming and is thankfully about to come to an end for the perpetrators of some of the modern entertainment industry's worst long-time institutional abuses of underage actresses. For many of the longtime CDAN regulars, this won't be a shock, although the details might. Many people in Hollywood and out have been waiting to see when this producer at this cable network is going to be called out, publicly accused, or charged for his many years of abuse behind the scenes. Many have wondered why, with so many others being brought down, he has managed to escape almost unscathed. It's because of his protector. His protector is the mega wealthy big boss of the studio and corporate parent and wields a lot of power over many types of media in both Hollywood and New York. Many years ago, the producer got himself in serious trouble over his abuse of several actresses. Not just those he harmed himself, but those he encouraged his writers, directors, and co-producers to abuse. This was not a one-time thing, but an ongoing, constant pattern which led those actresses to drugs, self-destruction, mutilation, destroyed dreams, wasted careers, damaged families, and even insanity. I think that's a reference to Amanda Bynes, made more disgusting by the complicity and apathy of the parents, momagers, and guardians who just wanted fame and money. Also, some perverts could do gross things for a living. At the time, the protector still had most of his marbles and was going to live forever. Many believe he still may, although he's now alive in name only, and the flames are lapping at his legs daily. Back when the abuses emerged as whispers at the corporation, the executives and the protector sat down with his corporate bean counters and realized the massive cash cow the producer was for them. Huge, very huge, and big in every way. In fact, probably one of the 3 biggest revenue generators in the corporate parent's entire history, especially in the coveted demographics for ads, merchandise, and licensing. And so we all know that's probably a reference to the children, right? That's where the teen industry is, where they sell all their merchandise and all of that. So now let's get to the actual defamation suit. I know this has gone much longer than I anticipated, but look, it is what it is, right? It's only a 24-page complaint, Defamation Per Se. He is suing Warner Brothers Discovery, Maxine Productions, Sony Pictures, Mary Robertson, Emma Schwartz, and then several other individuals. So let's just go through this. Dan Schneider suing these, different people. And so this is what it gets into. The action arises out of the recent television docuseries Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, in which defendants falsely state or imply that Schneider, a well-known television producer, creator, and/or writer responsible for some of history's most beloved children's shows, SA'd the children who worked on his TV shows. These statements are fabrications. Well, here's the thing, though, and I encourage people to go watch the series. They're saying states that they're making falsely stating, but then it says or implying, and I think that's what we need. That's really where we get into, because it's not stated, it's more implied than it is stated, and I think that most of the implication, again, comes from Schneider's own behavior. Schneider is best known for creating, writing, and producing Nickelodeon's children television comedies, All That, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly, and Victorious, among others. Quiet on Set's portrayal of Schneider, he says, is a hit job. While it is indisputable that 2 bona fide child abusers worked on Nickelodeon shows, it is likewise indisputable Schneider had no knowledge of their abuse and was not complicit, condemned it once it was discovered, and critically was not an abuser himself. But for the sake of clickbait ratings and views, or put more differently, money, defendants have destroyed Schneider's reputation and legacy through the false statements and implications that Schneider is exactly that. So it's interesting because the complaint makes several arguments here, and I don't want to go through all 24 pages, but he does make a point, and this focuses on the trailer, which, you know, trailers don't necessarily, like, you can be more, I think you have more creative leeway with an actual trailer than the film itself. So I think it's something that should be pointed out. But he says, no doubt defendants will endeavor to obfuscate what this lawsuit is about by pointing to what they did get right. And Schneider will be the first to admit some of what they said is true. At times, he was blind to the pain some of his behaviors caused certain colleagues, subordinates, and cast members. He will regret and atone for his behavior the rest of his life. Yeah, please, I doubt it. X to doubt. One thing he is not, and one thing that will forever mar his reputation and career, both past and present, is a child abuser. So this goes into the jurisdiction and whatnot. So he says plaintiff's ignorant of the blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I want to get into where he argues defamation by implication, which I thought was interesting. Defamation is actionable as a claim for libel and slander. Quote, libel is a false and unprivileged publication by writing, printing, picture, effigy, or other fixed representation to the eye that exposes any person to hatred, contempt, ridicule, or obloquy, which causes him to be shunned or avoided. Slander is a false publication orally uttered, which charges a person with a crime or with having been indicted, convicted, or punished for a crime, tends to injure him with respect to his office, profession, trade, or business. California recognizes that a defamatory statement can be either expressly stated or implied. If the defendant juxtaposes a series of facts so as to imply a defamatory connection between them, or otherwise creates a defamatory implication, he may be held responsible for the implication, even if the facts are correct. So that's what they're arguing, which I found to be interesting. He is arguing defamation by implication. He's not arguing that the information presented in Quiet on Set is false. He's saying that the way that they have portrayed it and their juxtapositioning of like pictures of him while talking about certain things that maybe other people did, he's saying that they're not saying it outright, but they're implying it. And so I find that to be interesting because that is, you know, I'm not an expert on California law, but they do allow this to be a thing. They do allow for defamation by implication. So he may actually have a semi-actionable claim here, depending on how this is read. And again, I'm not an expert. A photograph itself can convey both an implicit and explicit message, and the headline, caption, and photograph taken together are also a statement. A picture is worth 1,000 words. A photograph, especially when coupled with text, can convey a powerful message. In this case, a potentially defamatory one. So this was referring to a prior case, and how that information was portrayed. There would be defamation by implication, you know. So they're saying editing of a documentary to create a false and defamatory impression can constitute defamation. So how it was edited, how the story was put together, he's saying it can be an implied defamation. A defamation claim is properly stated when words juxtaposed with a picture may be interpreted by the average or ordinary viewer as defamatory. And that's another interesting argument that he makes, which is that the average person, maybe if they see just the trailer, are going to walk away seeing the trailer and thinking that the person being exposed is going to be Dan Schneider, because the trailer does focus a lot on Schneider more than the actual docuseries itself does. So I thought that that was an interesting argument to make. Okay, so The fact that an implied defamatory charge or insinuation leaves room for an innocent interpretation does not mean it is not defamatory. There may be conflicting inferences, but the question is whether it is addressed to the public at large. It is reasonable to assume that at least some of the readers or viewers will take it in a defamatory sense. Okay, so that's the argument. Here it is detailed below. The voiceovers and graphics in Quiet on Set and its trailer, juxtaposed or edited with the visual depictions, are purposefully, he argues, and intentionally defamatory, and that they falsely and repeatedly state or imply Schneider is a bad person who committed crimes in this regard, and have been interpreted as such by countless average, ordinary, reasonable viewers. And then it actually goes into the trailer, and it talks about things that happen, like literally at certain seconds in here, they take argument with this because it's like a true crime event. So it's saying that there was a crime, and then the next thing that is showed is Dan Schneider. And so he's arguing that they're setting it up to make it look like a crime occurred, and then they're saying true crime event, and then they bring up pictures of him, and the implication, he's saying it's implied that you're gonna learn in the series that he was the one that was arrested, when that is not the case. Dan Schneider has never been arrested or charged with any child crimes. So just to be clear about that. However, I think that the reason Dan Schneider's reputation is damaged, and the reason why people believe this about him, is because of his behavior. So that's where I would argue that I think that he's done more. The documentary is putting together basically a bunch of different information. It's showing you things he said and did, and then interviewing other people to talk about their experience. And so I do think, though, I thought it was an interesting argument, and I'm interested to see what will happen here. I don't want to get into too much of the details here because, again, this gets into spoilers for Quiet on Set, but he talks about the different episodes and how they're set up, because the first episode does end on a cliffhanger. And what Schneider argues is, if somebody watched just the trailer and maybe only watched the first episode and they didn't watch the full series from start to finish, they're gonna leave with the thought in mind that Dan Schneider was the person who ends up being revealed to have been charged with these, crimes. This is a true crime thing. That's what he's arguing here. And then he's complaining just the use of his image in this context states or implies that he is a convicted offender, which is both false and made with reckless disregard for the truth. And then they say you could have used other photographs, for example. This is kind of crazy, and I find it interesting as as somebody who's working on a documentary myself, to see, if you're dealing with litigious people, how they might try to go after you and pick things apart, and to complain about pictures and, oh, you could have used a different image here or there, I think is a little bit silly. Okay. And so that's basically like what it focuses on. And I find it interesting. And I have that up. That is on my Scribed account, so you guys can look at it there. I'm interested to know, what do you guys think about this? Obviously, I think I'm pretty sure what you all think of Dan Schneider, but you can feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm interested to know what you guys think, though, about the claims he's making. I look at that lawsuit and I feel like there's something that, to me, what this says to me is, I feel like there's something he is concerned about and doesn't want coming out. I don't know. That's just me. Those are my thoughts. I'm interested to know what you guys think of this. What do you think of Dan Schneider? Have you watched Quiet on Set, the docu-series? What did you think of it? Did you like it? And what do you think of Schneider's defamation lawsuit against this documentary and his attempt to basically go after them? All right, that's it for now. Have a good day, guys.